Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be doing an updated tier list video for Age of Empires 4, and we're going to have the tier list after the big patch that just dropped. And keep in mind there's a patch in 1 week that's coming, but I feel like that patch is going to be mostly to nerf siege, and I feel like the tier list might stay the same. So the patch changed a lot of civilizations. Delhi was an unsuspected nerf, but we'll talk about that later. And so I have S to D tier here for the 8 civilizations, and I'm going to go ahead and rate them. I'm going to rate them based on all the maps in the map pool. So if a civ is good on water maps, it definitely gets higher up in the list. If it's good on hybrid maps, higher up in the list. Good on land maps, it also counts. And then just based them on their flexibility, their strength, and just how consistent they really are. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we've got the Abbasid Dynasty is the first civilization. Now Abbasid is something that's very interesting. I feel like it has pretty good plays in terms of like siege and infantry, so you can do archers, crossbows, all that kind of stuff, and then make siege. It was kind of unchanged in the patch, in the balance, despite having a massive bug, but we won't consider that. However, the big thing with Abbasid is that the horsemen were nerfed, and that was a unit that they could open with in the past. Now, they weren't necessarily nerfed, so the horsemen were giving an extra pierce armor, but they lost like 20 or 30 HP, and that scales throughout. Like the elite horsemen loses like 45 HP or something like that. So horsemen were changed. They now only counter archer units. They're terrible against melee units pretty much. I would put Abbasid at around... I would put Abbasid in... Oh, it's actually really tricky. I'm going to put them in upper B tier here, guys. They're solid overall. They're not the best on like any map, really. Like they're only really good on maps that are like maybe Hill and Dale, where they can get a big boom off. And even then, they kind of die to Chinese. So I feel like they're like oftentimes second or third best on a lot of these maps. However, they're a very consistent civ to play. It's very hard to go wrong with the Abbasid, just because when you pick them, you know what you're getting into. So it's a good, well-round B tier civ. And the best quality for the Abbasid is their half cost villagers in the economy wing, and that's, I think, their best asset. Plus building siege with units. All right, next up we've got the Chinese. And Chinese is something that's been recently gone up in popularity. Now, I will say, if Chinese lose, or if Springolds get nerfed, Chinese lose a little bit of their power. I gotta be honest with you. Right now, Clockwork Springolds, the Clock Tower, that's the best thing that Chinese have, really. 300 HP Springolds are very hard to deal with. The Chinese boom is also good with the Song Dynasty. However, I feel like that has some counterplay. It's not like that overpowered. It's just like a strong boom option. And the Jukunu was changed a little bit, so the Jukunu is a little bit easier to use now. It's cheaper and easier to get into after the Song Dynasty, Song Dynasty. So I think that Chinese are actually quite good right now. They have one of the best late games in the game at the moment as well, just because their siege is so strong with the extra range bombards. That is just so hard to play against. So right now, Chinese is A tier, believe it or not. Chinese is A tier right now. They excel on closed maps, so they can get a big boom, Black Forest, Hill and Dale, all that kind of thing. All those kind of maps where they can get a big boom off. But they're also pretty good on maps like Arabia, where they can just go for like maybe a fast castle, go for some really, really strong Springolds, maybe make a few horsemen in feudal age, or some professional scouts or something like that they can just get through the feudal age, get to castle age, make some really strong Springolds, and combine them with either lancers or men at arms, and just play from there pretty much. They also have the Chukunu that is now a decent option as well. So Chinese is right up there in the A tier. I think their biggest weakness might be hybrid maps. But again, that yet to be tested 100%. All right, next up is Delhi, and Delhi, unfortunately, it's D for Delhi here. Delhi got completely shafted in the recent patch. I don't know why they nerfed the civ the way they did. However, the civ is like borderline unplayable right now. It has like no bonuses, nothing really going for it. And there's a lot of bugs around the civilization as well that, like, even if you don't factor the bugs, Delhi is still like easily the worst civilization in the game right now. So it's gonna get changed, but right now it's like probably the worst civ. And I mean, I guess their elephants are very strong if you can get there, but most civs won't let you really get there with a good economy. Next up is the English, and the English is a very interesting one. I've been back and forth with English. I really like them in certain cases, and I really didn't like them in certain cases. But right now, I'm really loving the English, especially after the recent Spearman buff. Spearmen now do more damage to cavalry, and they can have the brace mechanic as they attack move. So it's very easy to catch enemy cavalry with the Spearman, and the Longbow is the perfect DPS unit in the back. I also think the English boom is very strong with the farms and imp that give you gold, and the third TC in Castle Age, or the second TC if you stay on one TC. in Castlage, the landmark that really helps your boom. So I think English is super flexible, super strong, good on open and closed maps alike, decent on hybrid maps as well. I would put English up at the A tier, believe it or not. Really like the Civ. And I would say it might even be better than Chinese, more flexible. But I'm going to keep Chinese a bit higher just because of how strong their late game is right now and how strong Siege is. Chinese is still going to be the best in A tier. Next up is the French, and the French is an interesting one. They didn't really get nerfed that hard. It's really just the spears that got buffed. But French is still a really strong civilization. I just think that you have to change how you play them. You can't just do that brainless all-in knights anymore. It's not going to work. People would just go spears, and you're going to lose your army because spears got buffed. So French is still really good. It's just that you have to play it a lot smarter. So I would put French at the A tier. They also got their Hulks nerfed. And I'm thinking of putting it above English, maybe below English. It's really, I think this is personal preference. I'm going to put French a little bit above English just because they still dominate on water maps. The Hulk nerf wasn't enough. But as I was saying, you have to play French a little bit differently now. You have to mix in a lot of archers because you have to counter the spears somehow. But you still have a great economy, you still have great mobility. And the Elite Royal Knight is still a really strong unit. It didn't get nerfed at all. So just find a way to deal with spears, and then you're good to go. You still have Abbasid that are very strong. So yeah, French pretty good all around, but not overpowered like we once might have thought. Next is the HRE, and HRE are not amazing. However, I do feel like maybe this is just a personal thing, but I do feel like HRE have some decent options. They don't work every game. Like the options that you can go for, like fast castle and go for relics, they don't work every game. But when they do, they feel pretty strong. And I usually beat HRE when I play against them, but I have lost a couple games where they just get the relics early and then they can kind of win from there. I will put HRE at C tier. I don't think they're that an amazing civilization, but I think they're better than Delhi, and they at least have some options to go for. And they're pretty solid on the water maps as well. Next up, we've got the Mongols, and the Mongols is going to be without a doubt, S tier civilization for me. The Mongols is simply the best civ in the game right now, well-rounded. It's great on hybrid maps, probably your best option. The only problem with Mongols is that they're hard to play. So a player like me, I'm not very good with them. I struggle sometimes, but even me, I can make them work here and there against top level players. But the top level players that really excel at Mongols, it's almost impossible to beat them in hybrid maps. So Mongols are fantastic in hybrid maps, but they're also fantastic on land maps as well. So yeah, overall, Mongols are just a really great civilization, but it's hard to master, and that's why it might not seem as strong. But once you master it, it is really unfair to play against, and I would say it's 100% S tier. Great on hybrid, once again, great on land, and even on like the Boulder Bay, which is more or less a water map, Mongols can still perform very strong, very well. So Mongols is S tier for me. And next we have the Rus, and I think I'm going to put the Rus directly in the B tier. Now the Rus wasn't really changed too much, but the meta kind of increased. Or developed, I should say. Yeah, the meta developed in a way that Rus actually have a really strong land map play. The big change with Rus that I should mention before I hop into the meta changes is the fact that they removed the rapid fire deer. So you cannot rapid fire deer anymore. But that is, in my opinion, a buff to Rus because your opponent will not be able to deny hunt as quickly. Your opponent has to invest more time or maybe a scout to actually deny your hunt. And you're already naturally making more scouts. I would recommend you make 3 scouts plus your initial one for a total of 4 in Dark Age with the Rus. You can get all the hunts on the map really fast, and then those 4 scouts can be used to get professional scouts in the Feudal Age. And that gets me into how the meta has developed. The Rus now play professional scouts in Feudal Age. They can defend with one of their towers. I forgot what they're called. The wooden fortresses, the wooden fortress, and then they can use their golden gate to buy their way up to the castle age in a very timely manner, go for the Abbey of Trinity, and then go for either horse archers or knights in siege. Very strong civilization and very tricky to deal with. I don't think that strategy is like overpowered. I just think that strategy gives you a good matchup against something like the French, for example, that might actually beat out the Rus usually, and it gives you that really strong early castle age spike as well, taking the relics with the warrior monks and having a really good eco setup. So I would say B tier, high B tier for Rus. You could make an argument for A tier. Listen, it really depends on the player as well. But for me personally, in my experience playing against it and playing with it, I feel like Rus are pretty solid on B tier. Keep in mind that they're not very good on hybrid maps. However, I must say that they're actually quite strong on water. So maybe I'm rethinking it and I will put them in A tier. I have a theory that Rus could be like the best water civ now that the Hulks of French were nerfed. But I haven't tested it yet. So I actually think Rus could be really strong on... on water map. So I'm debating between going to A for Rus, which it looks weird to have so many civs on A. Listen, I've got Kaposh in the chat telling me Rus is strong on hybrid, not so much on water. Listen, I'm going to put Rus in A just because I feel like they've got some good options. Let me step back a little bit and just look at this list. It looks a bit awkward to have these 4 civs all in one category, but I do think this is actually correct, just because I actually feel like all these civs can beat each other on any given day. All these civs can beat each other on any given day. And I feel like Mongols is the only civ that's like slightly better than these. And I feel like Abbasid can easily beat any of these. However, it's not going to beat them consistently amongst top level players. So I think I'm pretty happy with this list. It does look a little awkward to have 4 civs in A tier, but that's really just how the meta has developed. The B and C tier civs are still playable, Abbasid and HRE, but you pretty much have to abuse siege with these civilizations in the mid game and like try to play like a different playstyle. Because if you just try to play all out, like match them army for army, these civs have better economy for the most part, and they're gonna just completely destroy you. So with Abbasid and HRE, you have to. It's more about timing, defensive play, and then picking your moment pretty much. And then Delhi, better luck next time. Delhi's kind of bad right now. So thanks for watching it. Thanks for watching this video is what I meant to say. And I hope you guys enjoy this updated tier list for this new patch. I will do more of these in the future if things do change in future patches, but for now, this is the list, and this is what I'm happy with. And I've played 20 games of ranked today, and I'm currently sitting at around rank 25. So that's kind of the credibility that I have for this list. Take it or leave it. Feel free to agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the list and what you would change. But that's it for me, guys. Take care. Catch you guys next time. Peace.